Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another guest interview. I'm having so much fun putting these on just to, introduce new wonderful people to this community. And today I'm so excited to introduce Anthony. Hi, Anthony.
Hi, Sydney. How you doing?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm excellent, and I'm very excited and very thankful and honored that I could be a part of this. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I'm excited to dive in. I'm just going to give a little bit of a background about who you are, and then we'll jump in.
Let's do it.
So this is Anthony Contreras, everybody. He is a certified hypnotherapist and owner of New Millennium Hypnotherapy. He previously worked at Tarzana Treatment Center for over 13 years, where he learned to combine his humor with his skills as a group facilitator, HIV testing counselor, outreach specialist, and strength-based case manager. He educated clients on the connection of body, mind, and spirit. His goal in life remains the same: to work with diverse populations and educate and empower individuals through self-esteem building and positive thinking so they may accomplish any goal they choose and live the fulfilled life they desire.
That's it. That's it.
You're so wonderful.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. As
So
are you.
Oh, thank you. You're too sweet. So let's dive in. It
Sure.
sounds like you help a lot of people within their relationships. Is that so?
Yes, you could. Well, I think that's one way of saying it. Well, we could, because we kind of talked a little bit about that beforehand, but I think what I really do is help people understand the relationship with themselves.
Yeah.
Because in my belief, I think that's the center piece of everything, is the better connection and better understanding and better awareness we have of self. That spills over into our relationships. And by relationships, I mean any kind of relationship. Whether that's a friendship, a romantic relationship, a sexual relationship, community, even the relationship that we have with nature and the world as a whole. It all begins with us, individual.
Yeah, it totally does. And would you say, through your hypnotherapy practice, which is so cool, I want to become certified as well.
Look into my eyes, Sydney. Look into no.
And the pendulum. But yeah, it sounds like you work with a lot of people around their self-esteem and how that how does that really contribute to the intimacy one feels in their life?
I believe, once again, I think that the stronger connection you have with yourself, I think it really can shift your perspective on how you see life. And that's one of the reasons why I was drawn to hypnosis and hypnotherapy. I've always had a kind of fascination with hypnosis growing up, but it went beyond that. And I'm so fascinated by how the mind works. And I guess the individuality of experience, because you can have two people that experience the same event and have two completely vastly different experiences.
Yeah.
And that led me into, thinking about labels and what exactly society does with labels. How do we use labels, and how, I guess we're kind of, I don't even know, maybe we're conditioned. Maybe society teaches us that it's important to put things in compartments and little boxes, and then all of a sudden we're now in this place where it matters that I have to be in this box. Don't put me in this box. I'm in this box.
Right.
And I think there's room for us to say I'm more than the box. There's more to me than just that box that you want to put me in. And if that's the box that you choose to put me in, I don't care. There's a freedom in that, if that makes sense. In saying you are entitled to have your opinion and your feelings. It's not a reflection on me. It just doesn't affect me. How can I get to a place in my mind where, especially right now, and I think in our society, with the pandemic and isolation and, the polarization of our country and kind of the world, it seems like, is that we're so easily offended and responsive to somebody else's thoughts and opinions of us, of the self. And it's kind of to our own detriment, saying your words are words, your words don't have power over me. Like, how can I know myself so well that it doesn't matter what you see about me? What you see may only be a small fraction of who I really am. And if that's all you see, that's great. That's on you, though. That doesn't define me. You don't have the power to define me. I work with, I have worked with a lot of different populations. I've worked with, the LGBTQ community. I've worked with homeless. I've worked with at-risk youth, addiction, HIV, newly diagnosed. And what I've come to understand and come to find is that there is the common thread is in how we were labeled without our knowing, how we were placed into a box. And this happens, if you think about it, it happens when we're children. And before, you don't even know the gender of your child until it was born, and then science progressed to a point where we now know gender at birth before, they're popped out or anything like that. And so that in and of itself is a label. Once we have this idea of a gender, our mind puts it into a box, and that box has certain expectations on it and certain other labels. And then as this child develops, it has this almost like this duty, right? I said duty. It has almost this duty to try and live up to whatever that expectation that was placed on them, when it was never mine to keep. I don't have to be what my parents or my guardians, my caretakers expected of me, and I think to try and free people into allowing them to say, you don't have to be what was expected of you. You didn't fail at being the child. Perhaps they failed at understanding that you are unique in your own right, and that you have every right to now explore and say, I want to get rid of the labels that society told me, or that my parents have told me, or that kids growing up told me. And now it's my turn to kind of say, who am I? And then redefine myself based on who's authentically me.
Yes.
That's where a lot of my work directs itself, it seems, in the universe. That's what I do.
Yeah, so powerful. And it just reminds me, like earlier today, I was on a podcast and we were talking about like fear of intimacy. Like, we're all so afraid, and it's not even around like fear of sex or getting close. It's like fear of like showing who we truly are to the world and
Absolutely.
being seen and heard for things we truly feel or truly believe. Like, that's where the fear comes in. It's not necessarily about, getting physical with someone. It's like, oh, I'm afraid to like say the wrong thing, or
judgment. I think that's I think what you're really talking about, and that's extremely common. I can't think of me myself. Everybody, I think, has this fear of being seen in a light that is unfavorable or is not true.
Yeah.
And it's that judgment, and I think one of the images that I use a lot with people is to say, actually, I'm going to give you a little bit of the backstory, and then I'll get to that. But that's the relationship to my little Chihuahua. Hi, baby. She's excited for me. That's why she's like, oh, the iceberg. So the idea is that I can't even remember. My dog's barking, throwing at me.
She has lots to say.
She does have a lot to say. Here's the bottom line is there was a quote, and Mr. Rogers, it was Mr. Rogers, and he had this quote in his wallet that said, you can't hate some, I'm paraphrasing, you can't hate somebody that you then learn to understand. And so pondering that, it's the idea that everybody has a story. And, if you take your classic iceberg, you see maybe about 10%, and 90% is under the water. It's the thing that's unseen.
Yeah.
And so that 10% above the water is what society and others around us and our community and people around us see as behavior. And so when we see somebody's behavior, we're only seeing the 10%.
Yeah.
And so that's where judgment comes from. We're only seeing that part, and then we make judgments based on that 10%.
Yes.
And what the truth is there's the 90% that we don't see that says, why? What was the story that led to the behavior? The behavior didn't happen on its own. There's a reason behind it. And that's the 90%. And I used to tell people, if you can get yourself to a place where you're okay asking, what is the story? I'm curious. Can you explain to me? I just kind of want to get to know you a little bit, but I noticed this, like, I'm wondering what happened there. What you're doing is you're eliminating judgment at that point, and you're opening yourself up to understanding. And you can't have judgment and understanding at the same time. Can't exist.
No.
Once you know why the behavior is there, you're like, oh, well, now it makes sense.
Yeah.
And now you understand. And I think what you were talking about too is vulnerability.
Yeah.
People are afraid to be vulnerable, and that's really the nature of intimacy, is being able to feel safe enough to share you and yourself 100%.
Yeah.
And the risk is, but what if they judge me anyways, or what if they don't like that, and that's kind of the big hurdle is, they may not. They may not. And are you in control of that? No. Is that necessarily your cross to bear? No. If they don't understand, that's on them. That has nothing to do with your story, your challenges, your ability to overcome, your insight, your humor, your intellect, all of that. You're more than just one person or two people or five people's opinions of self. And the more you can get into that frame of mind and into that consciousness, the more you love self. And the more you love self, the more love you have to then give in any sort of relationship. And I think to me, that leads to the concept and the perception of really what relationship is. And I think a lot of people have a misconstrued understanding of the nature of a relationship. And I think what I found most, and I've done it too, I'm no different than anybody, where you get into a relationship or there is some sort of, whether it's a friendship or whatever that is, and there's this little thing in the back of your mind that says, what's in it for me? Not in such a malicious way. I mean, maybe that sounds a little bit bad, but it's a little bit about, here's what it sounds like. They complete me. I love the way they make me feel.
Yeah.
And so really what the focus is what do they provide to me? What are they giving to me?
Yes.
And so it's like your hands are open, you're going like, gimme, 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 gimme. And I think if you can shift your perception and shift yourself into the mindset of, what do I have that I can give to improve their life? Maybe it's not about you. receiving. It's about what do you have to give? And if it's the right individual for that relationship, they'll take that and not hoard it, but in turn use it to fill their cup. And then with the overflow, pour it right back. And that's the reciprocation. And so it's that shift from you complete me. No, you shouldn't complete me. I should be a whole person. What I should be able to do is support you. What I should be able to do is to just be there with you in that space and allow you to be who you are so that you can feel safe to grow. And then how can I cheer you on? How can I make your life better? How can I make you see what I see when I look at you? All of those beautiful things. Are you aware of that? How can I make you aware of that? You know, I think to me, I think that's the real nature of I guess maybe the first couple of steps towards creating a relationship that is more intimate.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up, because like whether, like you said, that this can apply to any sort of relationship you have. It's just like, instead of, like, what can I get, or what am I getting out of this? How can I give? And just having that perspective, I think, would almost be more fulfilling. And then you would feel more whole based on giving and making other people feel like loved, cared for, seen, heard, like safe. Like, I feel like that's almost more fulfilling than like getting your needs met. Sometimes, like, we don't get to ignore our needs in our relationships. It's like, but it's like a balance, you know?
Absolutely. And you know, now that I'm thinking about it, hearing you speak, I definitely got to say, like, you know, yes, your needs are important.
Oh yeah.
I think maybe the difference is that the focus shouldn't be on your needs. You know, is that if you focus on the other person's needs, and if it's the right person, then they'll model your behavior and they'll focus on your needs. So now you're nurturing each other. And so when your needs are not being met, it's not a big dramatic kind of thing, but it's just it's more comfortable to say, you know, there's something that I'm feeling is missing right now. And it's okay to ask. I think some people are afraid to ask. You know, I'm feeling a little insecure in the relationship right now. You know, I notice I'm finding that you're pulling away a little bit, or you're spending a little bit more time with work, and just right now in this moment, I'm feeling a certain way.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's important, the whole communication. But I again, maybe really what it is that we have to practice intimacy with ourselves first. We have to get in there and learn what we don't like about ourselves, and instead of run away from it or deny it or not look at it, but to sit with it a little bit and just acknowledge it. We don't have to like it. We don't have to hate it. But where can we get to a place where we can just say it exists?
Yeah.
And once we can acknowledge that there is an elephant in the room that is, you know, my mind and my heart, my soul, there is this elephant that's sitting there and it's causing some pain. And how can I resolve that so that I can be the better person for whatever relationship I encounter?
And I'm curious, Anthony, like, how would you like suggest to people like to like get to a place where they feel like they can share? Because I think that's half the problem. People don't share what's on their heart for so long, and then they're like ruminate, and it's just like this thing that's eating away, and then resentment builds. Like, how do we kind of nip that in the ass and get to a place where we feel more confident expressing things like feelings, or just where we're at in a relationship?
I think that's the big question. You know, how do we? I don't know. I don't know 100%. I know what I think has worked for me, and again, I'm going to go back to the idea of the iceberg, and if I can take that model and apply it towards myself, saying, Can I acknowledge the 10% that exists, the behaviors that maybe others have pointed out to me? And then do my own little work of trying to figure out, or go to a professional, because that's what professionals are there to assist with, is to help understand why are the behaviors there, perhaps.
Yeah.
And in that sense, it becomes easier because we understand that judgment is never going to go away.
Nope.
We are judged the moment we're born till about 2 weeks after we die. And so you can't avoid it. You can't avoid it. We try and resist it. We try and run from it. But what if the opposite is true? What if we go like, nah, I'm going to be judged. Some of it's going to be true. And if it's true, I'm going to own it and say, yeah, I did that. I enjoyed it. Seemed like a good idea at the time.
Yeah.
And if it's not true, go like, why am I going to waste my time trying to put out little fires that people believe when it's probably coming from somebody who never took the time to understand me?
Right.
So if they're not taking the time to understand me as to why I am the way I am, then their opinion doesn't matter.
Right.
And so when you can get to that place of no longer avoiding judgment, now you're opening yourself up to listening. And I think I think so often, because we're afraid of judgment, a lot of us, if not all of us, fight with defensive behavior. We feel attacked, and it could be our thoughts, it could be our beliefs, it could just whatever that is. And right away, if somebody points out something that we even know, we may know, that's not true. That's not true. Right? Or, right. That's not me. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, but you do it too. Okay, those are all signs of defensive
behavior.
That's a
good one. They throw it back. Well,
yeah, but you do that.
Doesn't get you anywhere.
Exactly. And especially in a relationship, any relationship again, like that's keeping score. It's keeping score. If I'm going to do that, then if you're going to do it, then I'm going to do. Or you're going to do that. Oh, then I'm going to do that to you. And the nature of that is toxic, because now you are not the team focusing on the problem together towards a solution. Now you're enemies on opposite teams.
Yeah.
And there's no, not at all. It's better to go through life saying, Sydney, how can you and I work together to get through this discussion? How can we get through this pandemic, the isolation? How can we get through the times that I feel isolated or alone or not good enough? How can we, and then being open to the solution.
Yeah, I love that you're using the we language. Like, how can we work this out, work together? Because you're not going to get anywhere if you're just butting heads. And I'm not saying you can't disagree on things, but it's like, how do you navigate that in a way that you come to some kind of solution, not just staying stuck in the muck and, throwing mud at each other. My friend told me this quote one time. It's something about, you can't expect to stay clean if you're throwing mud or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. Something like that. I probably butchered it, but
that or I know what you're saying, where it's like you salt yourself hoping that the other person gets damaged by it, and it's like you're not helping the situation. What really is helping the situation?
Yeah.
Would you mind if I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Sorry. If I was to ask you, well, how do you show your defensive behavior? How does it manifest?
My defensive behavior can be, I'm getting a lot better at taking ownership, but I know it mostly comes out in my head, like the reactive, like, oh, well, you did this. I don't necessarily say it, but I think sometimes I do sort of put it back on them a little bit. and I try not to in a blaming way, but like, okay, well, this is what, you may have done that made me feel this way. And I'm
Right.
trying really hard in my life to develop a skill of taking out you language and coming at it from a place of I feel, or it felt this when this situation happened. So I think,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah, starting to get better at just like taking ownership of like my feelings. Nobody makes me feel anything except for my own perception, and just coming at it from like, okay, well, this is what I need in this scenario, and this
Yeah.
is how it felt, and yeah, what can I do to mend or do better, meet your needs better, like. But yeah, I think my initial reaction can be like, think about, well, what they've done.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's true for a lot of people. And I want to say, like, even just in that scenario, the first thing, I think the first thing that happens when we become defensive is we stop listening.
Yeah.
We don't care what the person is saying at that point. We don't care how much we care about the person or love the person. We are now shut down. We do not want to hear. And I think the interesting aspect of that is that when we are not able to take in information, we're not able to grow.
Yeah.
And so the first thing I think is being able to recognize when you're defensive, recognize what that looks like. I shut down. Like, I'll become a wall. I'll just,
Yeah.
and it took a while for me to like, oh, that's me not wanting to give them the satisfaction that they're bothering me, even though they're bothering me.
Yeah.
And it took a long time for me to feel okay with, yeah, I'm not perfect. And I think the other thing too is that we have to get to an understanding that in relationships, just like judgment, we are going to hurt the other individual.
Yes.
The difference is intention.
Yes.
If I am purposely trying to hurt Sydney, really, that's maybe not the best way to go about it. Now, if I'm being myself and indirectly your feelings are hurt and you bring it to my attention, I need to be open to that because it was unintentional. This was not my grand design of how to love Sydney, and so I have to get myself from a place of my ears are closed to how do I get back open? And I think one of the ways that worked for me was to ask myself, is there any truth in what they're saying? Is there any truth? Is there any truth?
Oh.
Like, let's say, my partner's saying, I'm always, which, the general words, I'm always having to clean up the house.
Right.
And you don't do anything around here. So yeah, all of a sudden it's like, what do you mean I don't do anything around here? That could be my thought.
Yeah.
But maybe my thought has to be like, wait a minute. Is there some truth to what they're saying? Am I observing that? Yes, lately I've been too consumed with what I've been doing personally that I've neglected the fact that they have picked up the slack. And how can I acknowledge that in a safe way? So is there truth to that? Well, if there's truth to that, then they're not trying to hurt me. They're trying to keep you in the relationship.
Yeah.
They're not trying. No one's ever giving you knowledge to push you away. They're giving you knowledge to keep you close.
I like that.
So it's about, okay, how can I reopen my ears so that I can understand, okay, you know what? Those are your feelings. I'm sure it does feel like you're always having to clean. And I'm sorry. And you know what? You're right. You're right. I've noticed that you have been picking up the slack and I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Just acknowledging.
Yeah.
I always, when I work with clients, I tell them that in my belief, there's three things that every person is looking for. And that's love, acceptance, and appreciation.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be loved for who they are. They want to be 100% accepted, good, bad, and the ugly. And they want to be appreciated. And it took me a while to really understand what I meant by appreciated, but the analogy I use is that when I bought my car brand new, the minute I drove it off the lot, it lost and depreciated $2,000 right off the top.
Yep.
The moment I drove off the lot, bam, it lost value.
Yes.
Right? That's depreciation. So what's the opposite of depreciation is appreciation. What
Adding
that says is that the more time I spend with Sydney, the greater your value in my eyes and in my perception. The more knowledge you have for me to receive, and the more knowledge I have of you to share with you. So the appreciation, the value of the other person goes up. We want that feeling that says you want to be around me, right? I think everybody wants that appreciation,
Yeah.
and so you have to be able to acknowledge there's aspects about me that are there that maybe I don't like so much. And maybe it's difficult for me to hear.
Yeah.
And it's okay that it's difficult for me to hear, because I know that you're bringing it to me from a place of love, because you're trying to say, I want to keep you as close as possible, but this is driving a wedge. What I'm bringing up is driving a wedge, and I don't want the wedge to become a separation or a more distance. And so when you recognize it for that, and just, again, shift your perception, and see it for what it truly is, which is a message of how can we stay in the bond that we are. And the more we share in those things, the greater our bond becomes. And now you appreciate, I appreciate, and now we're working all towards the same thing of nurturing and compassion.
Yeah. Okay. In all honesty, I'm so glad this conversation is so well timed, because I feel like in my life right now I'm navigating a bit of a bump in the road with one of my closest friends who I love her so much. And over the last year I've done a few things that have hurt her, and it comes back to that intention piece. I was like, there was never any intention to do that. So now that I have this knowledge she shared, it's like, okay, I can look back. And then I was also doing what you suggested. I was like, is there some truth to what she shared? And I can agree and be like, yes, there is. So I get to own that, be open, and just be like, okay, thank you for sharing. Thank you for telling me, because that's the most important thing to me, is someone lets me know so I can change and meet their needs better. And now I get to be like, okay, what do I get to commit to going forward and learning what you need more of? How can, like you said, how can we come to a place where both of our needs are getting met, and it's, we're working through that. So I'm just so glad this is coming up today.
Yeah. I had a thought, but it just left. It just flew away. So that's okay. But yeah, no, I love that. This is why I do what I do. This is why I love hypnotherapy. Is, I'm not a therapist, but when you can shift people's perception, and you'll see amazing changes, because if your current perception keeps you in a state where that observation brings up certain thoughts and certain feelings. And so if you shift the perception, you shift, even just a little bit, the thought that goes along with it. And if you can shift the thought just a little bit, then you shift the feeling. And if you shift the feeling, you'll react differently. And it's the reaction that we have to shift. If I can see that, oh, wait a minute, no, as a friend, you are telling me something, and you're bringing it to my attention because you care about the friendship.
Yes.
Well, okay, now that's something. I would say it's worse. It's a huge red flag if you hurt somebody, a friend, whatever that relationship is, and they don't say anything.
Yeah.
because to me, that says they've given up on you.
Yeah.
Like there's no point, and I've had that in my life as well, and that's been very, it's painful. It's a painful realization. But once you get past the pain and you can acknowledge whatever truth is there, and it takes work, it's not easy. But once you can get to that place of taking ownership and accountability and responsibility, now you're sitting with the power of choice.
Yeah.
Do I want to continue this? Or what can I do so that I can modify it? So that it's no longer a stone in a backpack sitting on my back. How can I take this backpack off so that all the crap that I've been holding on to, that's been getting in the middle of all my other relationships, because I'm sure it's not just with that one friend. I'm sure somehow this has a ripple effect and can and may affect all your other relationships as well.
Yeah.
So really, this is a growth experience and learning, how do I identify more? And then you become hungry for it. What did I do wrong? Like, how did I hurt you?
I do that. Yeah. I'm like calling up all my friends. Hey, like, how can I be a better friend to you?
Right.
But I genuinely care, because it's like you said, if people aren't saying anything, like how can you, like, sometimes there's like a feeling that's off, but if people don't say what they need, it's hard to shift in a way that makes them feel loved, accepted,
Absolutely.
appreciated.
And I think you just brought up something that I thought was kind of interesting too, is that some people, what they'll do is, you should know.
Oh yeah.
I shouldn't have to tell you, you should know. And I'm like, I'm not a mind reader.
Yeah.
I'm not a mind reader. It's okay to let the other person know. And, communication's everything.
Yeah.
There's there's an acronym that I know that I try and use, and it's PEER, PEER. And so when you're looking for effective communication, the first thing you want to do is make sure that it's the right place and time. I
need to get better at that.
And here it's very simple. How do we know if it's the right place or time? We ask. We just ask. I pull you off to the side and I say, hey, Sydney, this kind of happened. Would now be a good time for us to talk about this? Trust me, if it is, you'll say yes. And if not, you'll say no. And if you say no, is there a time that we can set aside so that we can talk about this? Now, am I doing this in front of everybody? No, because I don't want to embarrass you. That's going to close you off. It's going to keep your ears closed. So what I want to do is be able to pull you privately. And then, is my environment safe? Is it just us so that other people you don't feel judged by others? Can you create that space that's safe? So making sure that's the right time and place, right? Explore is the first E. So explore what is the situation, and really look at it from all angles, which is not about judgment. Again, it's not about, do I like it, do I not like it, but just being able to pick it up and acknowledge, okay, this is how you feel. I didn't realize that. I didn't recognize that I was doing that. Let me see. Okay. Now you have an understanding. You're exploring.
Yes.
Freely. The next E is, what is the next E? Let me look at my little cheat sheet, perhaps. Oh, this is the best part. It's exploring the solutions together.
Oh, yeah.
Staying focused on reminding the other person, okay, Sydney, we're in this together. Okay, it's the both of us. So what do you think are some of the solutions that we can work towards? And at the same time, Sydney feeling safe enough to say, okay, these are my thoughts. What are your thoughts? And now you're collaborating. You're working together towards the common solution. It's not one person saying, you do this, right? Yeah. But it's both of you coming together to figure out a solution for everybody, I like it. And the last part is responsibility and accountability. And that's the most important one too, because you need to be able to not tell the other person, this is what you need to do, because nobody wants to be told what to do. They want the power of choice. And so what you do is instead, after you discuss the solutions, you look at, what can I do?
Yes.
What is my responsibility in this? What can I agree to and take accountability for and change within this relationship, this dynamic? What is mine to change?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of me telling you what you should do, I figure out, what do I need to do to make the situation better? And hopefully you're deciding what you are going to do to make the situation better. Maybe you're going to be more vocal. I'm tired of doing the dishes all the time. Like, how about, I don't know, like 3 days out of the week, can you do them?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Well, I want you to do it Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Well, I work Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. How about I do it Saturday, Sunday, and Tuesday?
Yeah.
So, okay, you're taking accountability. I will do it. I'm letting you know right now, I will do it Saturday, Sunday, and Tuesday. And here's what else I would love from you. If by chance I forget, you have absolute permission, in a very kind and gentle way, to remind me, it's Saturday, it's Sunday, it's Tuesday, And now I'm deciding, this is how I can make it better. And again, I find it to be working from that stance, PEER, peer.
I love that.
They're effective communication skills that we can, again, use in all sorts of relationships.
Yeah. I'm stealing that.
Please do. More the merrier. Yeah.
My relationships. So thank you for sharing that. And just before we wrap up, Anthony, do you have any sort of last thoughts that you'd love to share, just for anyone? Yeah, just whatever's on your heart that you're feeling called to share.
I think if you're going to start the journey of self-discovery and start the process of uncovering and revealing the authentic self, which is that thing that is you, that spark within you that exists outside of the labels that you were given, whether that was a gender label, whether that was, whatever expectations were placed upon you. When to start that journey, start small. Start with, what's my favorite color? I've done that with a few clients, and they're like, well, for me, blue, it's blue. And I'm going like, well, that's a very broad blue. So the homework is, go to Home Depot, stand in the paint section, look at all the blues, and then find out the perfect blue in that current moment for you. Yeah. That you say, no, it's that blue, periwinkle or whatever, like, that's my favorite blue, cobalt. Oh, okay. Now that's one step towards really understanding you. And then you go from there. What's my favorite food? Do I like to read? What's my favorite time of day? What kind of music do I really enjoy? What kind of movies? And this starts the process, and it gets the mind focusing on really falling in love with self. And now it's kind of like you're dating yourself, and you're getting to know who you are, not what everybody else is expecting or asking you to be. But now you get to reveal that authentic self. Those are my words.
I love that. And that's what it's all about. Authenticity, vulnerability, show who you are.
Absolutely. That is the strength.
Oh, well, it's been so lovely to have you. There's so much more I wanted to dive into. I'd love to have you back. This has just been so great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you again for the opportunity, and to all your viewers out there. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Bye for now, everyone. See you on the next guest interview.